ask you a question. So what if when AIDS came out, there was a vaccine that came out that protected people from getting it, and would the hospital, would the medical profession or what be doing the right thing if they mandated that all healthcare workers get this vaccine? And let's suppose it was safe. Let's say they did studies and it seemed to be safe.
It'd been vetted.
Yeah.
That's a great scenario. That's a great question.
I'd like to offer a thought on that. I think the difference, Scott, is it is very easy for people to make a decision when they're able to comprehend the gravity of what might happen to them. And when we were dealing with AIDS, particularly in its earliest stages, it was abundantly clear that this was not only a horrible disease, but it would be deadly for anybody that picked it up. I can't imagine that, there would be some outliers. There's no question about that, but I can't imagine that anyone would not rush to go out and be vaccinated against a disease that they know will be certainly fatal.
Yeah.
The difference with SARS-CoV-2 is that the mortality per infected individual is extraordinarily low. And therefore, people have an opportunity to think, well, I'm perfectly willing to take my chances.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
What's absent from the conversation so many times, and particularly the ones that we are exposed to in media, is we seem to have lost the capacity to think of the greater good, which is the only way that a democracy can survive. There has to be a point where you say, this is a thing that I should do because it is the most good for the most people. And the fact that that has disappeared from the conversation, to me, represents a shift in attitude about what it means to live in a democratic society that has just been profound in my lifetime and in your lifetime, of course. In the 1940s, people were rushing to sign up to join the armed forces because it made sense to go to war against this evil threat to the democratic way of life. By the time we got to Vietnam, people were finding ways to get excused from going to service because of presumed bone spurs on their heels and things of that nature. We had to draft people into service because the perception of the greater good was simply not there, and understandably so. I mean, what did we really have going on in Vietnam? So even though it sounds like I might have strayed from the topic, what I'm getting at is that if the government is going to be involved in what seemed to be on the surface personal opinion or personal well-being, there has to be a measurement somewhere of where is the greater good. Yeah. And that gets very, very difficult. And that's when we have to consult the lawyers. And there is nothing that a lawyer does better than obscure an issue and make it difficult to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And Randy, I mean, I really, and that's really the distinction is it really depends on the situation. In a situation like AIDS, where it's so deadly, just about everybody would personally want to get vaccinated. And if they didn't, would it be the job of the government or medical society to make them? But with COVID, it's different. It's not that deadly. It's bad, but it's not that deadly, and it's a different situation. So it really sort of depends on the situation, and if you really talk about the greater good, I mean, doesn't that include the greater good for everybody? Those people that want to exercise their individual rights as citizens to refuse something that the government is mandating for them. So that's part of the greater good too, is acknowledging and honoring individual liberty.
Well, that's where the fuzzy part is, and the greater good, defining the greater good becomes dependent upon recognizing what is in the interest of the greater number of individuals that have an interest in the discussion.
So, again, listen, even the term "the greater good" is now being politicized. I don't know if you've kind of kept your ears open on that. So that's a whole nother little road we can go down. But I kind of think back to when we started public school. I went to public school. We all had to get vaccinated.
Yeah, no, they held me down. I was a vax denier as a 5-year-old, and they had to hold me down. But something like that was just accepted. People didn't really fight it. It's understood it was for your well-being.
Yeah.
And the public health aspect of it too. So, but now we've got something that's so different. Like Scott was just saying, the death rates are so low for COVID. People, were saying, well, wait a second. And then I think it's how the vaccine was introduced to raised a lot of questions. If you're in clinical trials, that you've got to go through lots of protocols and all the hurdles, et cetera. So just to kind of come out with this vaccine that bypassed so many of the checkpoints that normally any drug coming to market would have to go through, let alone a vaccine, it raised some concerns. And this added fuel to the fire. So it's just, I think people, what Scott just said, their individual liberties are at stake here, and people value this. And it's such a critical part of our democracy and our society. Without those, what do we have? This is, and I don't know that there's any right answer here. This is a unique time where there is no simple solution to this. Even back to AIDS, though, when we saw our patients dying of AIDS, it was a horrific death. I mean, if you're in healthcare and you saw what those people were going through too, it's like, and the fear of being stuck, and knowing that there was no hope at all, that was scary times.
Yeah,
it was.
And there, Des, you pointed out something that that was a misinterpretation of what's going on. In this country, we came to look upon AIDS as something that only happened to homosexuals. A lot of people continued to look upon that lifestyle as aberrant behavior. And a lot of people were walking around thinking, well, I'm a straight person. I'm erroneously thinking that because I'm a straight person, I don't have to worry about this. But the truth is that that is a sexually transmitted disease, and eventually it gets into the greater population, and it has big time trouble. And a lot of people are not aware of this. There is, and I should probably search out the Fresh Air interview where this was discussed by a guy that wrote a book about Tony Fauci. But had it not been for Tony Fauci's intervention and rearranging of the research to market process, we would probably not have had the very effective medications against the AIDS virus that we currently have for another 5 to 8 years beyond when they appeared. It was Fauci that got in there and said, hey guys, we're making this too complicated. We can still be safe and know what we need to know about this. And we can get these drugs delivered to the people that really need it and stop spreading this virus around. That's how it happened.